Hi folks, I'd like to give you a art lesson today. This is going to be drawing flowers 3 different ways. So we're going to start with drawing a tulip. Tulips are one of the flowers that are out in my yard right now, and they're a pretty easy flower to draw. But what's really nice about them is because real tulips have so much nice color blending and color variation on them, this can be a lovely work to do and then take out into your yard and try and get the colors to match. So to start with, you're going to draw a curvy line like that. Then you're going to connect it with one that comes out and down. And we want this to be a point and this to be a point. Okay. Then we're going to continue up to here. So kind of like we're drawing a U, big U. When this one comes down, it's not going to go into the very bottom. It's going to connect right about here. We want to show how the petals in a tulip overlap. And then to fill in the center, we need one of the petals from the back side to show. When I do that, I like to make it so it comes up to a place that is just ever so slightly below where the other two are. So I'm going to give myself a little dot to aim for right there and do a curve and a curve. Not super fancy, but totally clearly a tulip. And if you add some colors to it, it'll look a lot nicer. Remember to give your flower a stem, and they have those big linear leaves that attach at the bottom. So something like that is good for their leaves. Next, we have a sunflower or a daisy or something of a similar compound flower sort of style. If you want to do a sunflower, I suggest you make the center larger, and if you want to do a daisy, I would suggest you make the center smaller. So either way, you're going to start with a circle. Feel free to find a stencil and trace it, or trace the bottom of a glue stick or a jar or whatever works, or just freehand it like I did. Then you're going to do some crisscrossed lines that cross each other perpendicular. So straight this way and then 90 degrees different, straight this way. That makes that inside part that is technically where the actual flowers are, but that's a science lesson for another day. Now you're going to really lightly with a pencil kind of eyeball where eighths looks like. I'm going to do mine using my erasable pen so it'll show up nicely for you. So to make eighths, first go straight up and straight down. That one's kind of sloppy. I'm going to fix that one. There we go. And then straight to both sides. And then halfway between these, split the difference. Right now we have fourths. If we cut our fourths in half, we'll get eighths. Okay. Now you're going to use those as like the center lines of each of the petals. Let's go like this and like this. See what I mean? And I like to rotate the page as I'm doing this because it helps me make my petals look nicer. If your petals don't touch up on the sides, that's okay, but I think it looks nicer if they fill in the space really well. But it's up to you, and flowers are all different, so whatever you draw is still going to look like a real flower. Well, within reason. If you draw a kitty cat, it's not going to look like a real flower. But if you're trying to draw a flower, I'm pretty sure it's going to look like a real flower. You can stop here if this is looking like the type of flower you want, but if you want it to be one of the more filled in ones that have layers and layers of petals, then you're going to go to between each of the 2 big ones you have and add another little one that hides behind like that. Again, I find rotating your page to be a really good idea so that your hand can get used to making the same shape over and over again and get a little better at it. At this point, if you want to leave those eighths lines in there and use them as like part of your design, maybe add them in on the tiny ones, you can do that. Or if you can erase them and you prefer it that way, you're welcome to. But I kind of dig it like that, so I'm going to leave it. This guy's going to need a stem also, and then feel free to add leaves whatever way you want. Now, this last one is my favorite. This one is how to draw a rose that is still in its bud form, is still fairly closed up, but is starting to open. So to do it, you're going to start by drawing an ellipse. It does not have to be a perfect ellipse. Mine is clearly not a perfect ellipse. Then, starting at the middle, you're going to make a little spiral inside of it. Like that. Okay. Now, you're going to next draw a heart that touches the spiral right here, but does not touch down at the bottom or on the sides. Remember that working in pencil is generally a good idea. I'm working in pen because it shows up better. And because sometimes when I work in pencil, I get too concerned with it being perfect, and working in pen makes me learn to just deal with it. If you want to try that because you worry about trying to be too perfect sometimes and you want to train your brain to chill out, you're welcome to work in pen too. But in general, pencil lets you control your work a bit more. All right, we have the center of our rose. Probably doesn't look like one yet, but it will. Next, we're going to start over here on the side of our heart, and we're going to draw a swoop that kind of makes the same shape as the bottom of the heart, but comes down to right about here. So bear with me. Swoop and down. Okay. Got a little sloppy, so I'm just going to thicken that line a little. It's a good way to hide sloppiness. And then you're going to connect the bottom of the heart to the bottom of your swoop. We're going to come in on the other side and do the same thing, but it's going to connect in right about there. Okay. Now we're going to come down from here, and we're going to make a U shape that comes up and touches in here. U shape touches in here. Okay. Then if you want, you can continue this line down. I kind of like how it looks better this way. We're going to need to add the sepals, the little tiny leaves that protected this before it opened. So they look normally like kind of like that. And then we can put in our stem. And if you want to add details like some of the thorns or some of the little leaves that come off, you can do that too. I'm going to show you the last one I drew because I honestly think it looked a little nicer than this one. See? But that's okay. Remember, this one right here that's in pencil was the first one I drew, and this was the second one I drew. If I keep practicing, they're going to look better. If I draw an entire field of them, I'm definitely going to get some practice and they're going to look nicer. When I was looking for ways to draw roses, I found about 20 different styles. So if you like this one, go for it. Here's another one. This is the one I used to draw when I was in elementary school, where you make a C and then you make a backwards C that's bigger. And then you just go around kind of adding bigger loops. And more loops, and more loops, and more loops. And that's a way you can do a rose. Although in retrospect, that kind of looks more like those big fluffy ones. Are those called dahlias? That one looks kind of like a dahlia to me now with my adult brain, but it also works as a rose. Anyway, go forth, do some drawing. Remember that if you grid your paper out into fourths and try each picture 4 times, you're going to get a chance to see yourself improving. Also, keep in mind that shading is going to bring a lot to your work. So if you're drawing the tulips, you might find, like the ones in my yard, let's see, are bright red at the tip, and then head down into a kind of a lighter red. And down at the very base, switch into a yellow. So if you add some color, these are going to look a lot nicer. You might use this as an opportunity to go out and do some scientific drawing in your yard. If you have any flowers that resemble any of these in your yard or that you can see from your yard, you could do some kind of botanical drawing and see if you can get them to match nature. Have fun. Have a good day. Bye, everybody.